From the letter to the Romans, it is now the hour for you to wake from sleep. The night is far spent, the day draws near. Let us cast off the deeds of darkness then, and put on the armor of light. Let us live honorably as in daylight. And so we pray. My God stands by me, all my trust is in him. I find refuge in him, and I am truly free. Amen. Good morning, and thanks so much for joining us. It's been an interesting month so far. We'll chronicle the affairs of the nation for you in the next 2 hours. We want to bring together Jamaican lovers from all over the world, those with the nation's blood coursing through their veins, those who have come amongst us and recognize the godliness, the excitement, the humanity of this nation. Wherever you are, the warmth of the climate infuses the heart in the coldest environment this morning in Britain, in Canada, in the United States, and all of you who check out the bridge, www.bridge99fm.com, all over the world. In Jamaica, it's Bridge 99.13579 on the FM dial, and I gather that this broadcast is repeated and shared all over the world, and that's good. Thanks very much for being with us. I'm Ronnie Thwaites. I've been doing this for a while. It's a real honor, to be able to talk to people, to share their ideas, to share my ideas with them. Not always right, always willing to listen. You can call us, Bridge 99 WhatsApp text line is 876-551-5782. And the studio line is 876-676-4996. It's a new experiment in radio in Jamaica and to the world. Later on, the Honorable Pearnel Charles Sr., he's an African chief, so we call him Chief Pearnel Charles sometimes. Yes, he is one of the best known and most ubiquitous public servants in the world. He's served in so many areas over decades. He joins us to share the discussion. Today, I suppose, it'll be interesting because, last night, the Prime Minister, Mr. Andrew Holness, indicated some changes in the cabinet of Jamaica. So that'll be a matter for discussion. And so will some of the other things I'll tell you about in a while. But listen up, Jamaica is noted for its equable climate. And so we begin with the meteorological report, the weather report, using the big word about meteorological. All right, so the weather report this morning is isolated showers expected across the north central and eastern parishes. It'll be cloudy elsewhere, even as the dawn breaks. You could see that this morning. Meanwhile, in the afternoon, isolated showers and thunderstorms are expected across hilly areas and sections of southern parishes. Otherwise, it will be partly cloudy. Expect nighttime showers, mainly across sections of northern parishes. I give thanks for small things and for the weather. The news this morning has it that the Caribbean, as a region, begins the 2022 year in a situation of water scarcity in some other parts of the region, but that's not the case in Jamaica right now. We're getting decent, what we call it, farmer's rain. Yes, a little bit each day, every other day. Okay, no flood, but no drought. And when we think of the extraordinary importance of feeding ourselves, of increasing agricultural production, you can say all you want that our agriculture should not continue to be rain-fed, but the fact is that for the majority of producers, that's exactly what it is. And so we are grateful for I call it the equable weather. Yeah, okay, so we mentioned the cabinet reshuffle. The news is, in case you're just tuning in, that Mr. Floyd Green, promising young parliamentarian, is back in the cabinet. He went into suspension for 4 months, and he's now a minister in the Prime Minister's office. As Lloyd B. Smith, known as governor in Montego Bay, the producer and executive editor of the Western Mirror, says he wonders if there's space in the Prime Minister's office for all who him pack up in there. It's himself, it is Mr. Montague, Mr. Warmington, Mr. Samuda, and Mr. Green. A whole heap of people ministers back up in there. Okay, well, if they have discrete portfolios, even although they're all without portfolio, then let's see. It's not the nomenclature or the numbers who we're interested in. We're interested in the deliverables, aren't we? Yeah. So let's hear how the responsibilities are to be divided, and let's hear how they will carry it out. What a breath of fresh air, of a sigh of relief. Some of the changes in the area of in the legal areas. We have a new Attorney General, Dr. And we have a new minister, a ministry rather, Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs. This one, Pearnel will have to explain for me, no? Dr. McCoy is the Attorney General. He certainly is a legal scholar. I don't know that he has had I don't know what his experience in practice has been, but let's wait and see. But now, how you have a Ministry of Justice, an Attorney General, and now a Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs? How'd that go? Okay. If you want to say that we want to engage in a significant process of constitutional reform, okay, but then you have to have the right person for that, you know, a person who is in favor of strong in the law and also very devoted to constitutional principles. Yeah, because if your constitutional reform is, your idea of it is tinged with authoritarianism and more power for UNO, you know UNO? Then that's not what we want, you know, and we're not going to take that. We're going to spit it out. Hear how my voice gets soft but firm? So we'll watch and see, but that one needs an explanation that I can't give to it at all. So there you are. Let's hold off for the cabinet issues till later in the program. Betty Ann Blaine, that redoubtable campaigner for children, wrote a letter in the Gleaner yesterday. I'd love to interview her one morning, please, Madam Producer. Hear the children's cry. She's concerned about the socio-emotional as well as the academic condition of our children after being out of school for so long. She thinks it needs public attention, and I agree. It really does. Can I make an appeal, to a very respectful appeal to the new Minister of Agriculture, whose name is Mr. Pearnel Charles? Yes. If you were to really distinguish yourself by helping us to achieve better balance from our agriculture and fisheries for school feeding, you would have done so well. You will do so well. Yes? Our children need to be fed better in order to do better in school and do better as far as their behavior is concerned. I've watched this thing for many years, you know, and I think that when children have enough good nutrition, not the cheese tricks and the bag juice oddly, but rather proper protein, carbohydrates, all of the necessary ingredients in the right proportions, breakfast as well as lunch, then it seems to me you are setting an important platform for their learning. A lot of the indiscipline in school, the restlessness which makes learning compromised, comes because people are hungry. Children come out to school, and sometimes because the parents are careless, sometimes because they are poor, sometimes because circumstances like long transportation routes make it difficult for you to eat well enough before you leave home in order to get to school. Yeah, some picnic take all 4 buses to go to school, you know. Some picnic go across parishes to reach school. So in these circumstances, if we really had a good school feeding program, we're spending the money on it, but what are we getting? It's not all bad, but it certainly isn't enough good. Then we would make a big, big difference to national progress and make life so much more fruitful for the majority of our children. So I am making a strong appeal in that regard. Okay, the issues now that face us today then are social issues as well as political issues, as well as economic issues. The Minister of Finance, Dr. Clark, is expected to table another supplementary budget this afternoon in the House of Representatives. Are the revenues holding up, Minister? I think you will probably say that that is so. But then when that's nothing to crow about, because the revenues come from where? Come from out for your pocket and from my pocket. It means that we are more faithful to our giving than you, not you personally, sir, but than the agencies where the money is spent are faithful in delivering. Understand that, So it isn't a sign of buoyancy. It's a sign of better tax collection. Okay? So let's keep that in proportion, one. And two, how we spend it is a critical issue. And I'm no prophet, but I'm pretty sure that the Ministry of Health is going to need some more money because they have had to spend so much more to fight the pandemic. And we're told that there's money owing to many of the professionals who have been working hard in that regard. So it would be very much to be expected that there would be additional resources for the Ministry of Health. And I'm really hoping for some more money for the Ministry of Education because the schools need more money in order to be able to do what is necessary to bring the children back up to some kind of standard. You can't talk about the Orlando Patterson report. You can't talk about the importance of face-to-face learning without dealing with those things. And look at just my few remarks this morning. I've been encouraging better school feeding. Better school feeding costs money, yes. But here's the controversial part. If I were to say a bit more, and it would be this: that school feeding should be the same food for every child in every school. And if you don't have money, you get that. Yes, no questions asked, and no different color ticket for the PATH students or the equal number of people who are not on PATH, because the principal has no say in nominating, or very little. But if your parents can afford to contribute something to school feeding, you should do it. It should be done. This nonsense that we believe that everything good is free. Yes, that doesn't work, Okay, there is a bad psychology. Anything of value costs, and it's a question of who bears that cost. And undoubtedly, the majority of our children who come from poor families will have to be assisted to get this proper nutrition, which we are stating is central to their own development, to the success of education, and to national progress. In some countries with richness, they are able to provide school meals absolutely free. We have not been able to do that, although we would like to. But don't tell me that you can pay money for braid your hair or to get a dance hall outfit or to go on vacation to wherever you go or to spend on some consumer durable, and then you can manage to contribute to your picnic food. Don't do that. Yes? And contributing expensive food of some imported shelf is not the answer. What we're talking about is good, solid nutrition. The nutritionist will tell us what it is. But you know how far a little porridge can go in the morning, and a little hot tea, a boiled egg. Yes? You know what it can mean to get some solid beans and peas, or a little piece of chicken or fish, or some milk at lunchtime. Those are the things which I know make the difference. Made it for me, my children, grandchildren, and for you too. So let's settle for the things that really will make a difference. And let's spend on that in the supplementary estimates that the Minister of Finance is going to offer today, and which he will have to carry before the a committee of Parliament tomorrow for closer examination. By the way, that's good, you know. Yes, we criticize a lot of things, and we have a right to do so because many things need to be done better. But one of the good things is that has happened in recent years is that when the government, any government, comes forward with expenses of our money, it is put to a committee of the people's representatives, and they have to check it out and ask the questions. Some people don't like that, you know. Sometimes when you try that, the ministers and their Riri supporters say, "Come on, shut up! It's our time now. Don't ask some more questions. Just come and vote on it." And sometimes the speaker goes along with that, and that's not right. We need to question every dollar if that's what's needed. Tedious, boring, sometimes provocative, but necessary so that people can understand and not chup their teeth and feel that what you do is take the money out of their pocket, collect up a revenue, think is you good because that happened, and then you spend it how you feel. Yes? And of course, many will feel that you thief it how you feel. So that is not, we have to change up that. And we're doing it, we have the mechanism and the institutions to do it, and therefore we should do it. I see on the CNN, just a talk, you know, hope you will stay with me and enjoy it. CNN is saying that Mr. Trump's liability for the Capitol riot a couple of days ago, faces a critical court test. I want to ask all my listeners a question. Which other country could people, even somebody like Mr. Trump, have fomented what was nearly a successful coup? Which was nearly murder. If they didn't catch Mike Pence, they would have killed him, you know. Yes? If they catch Nancy Pelosi, she would have dead. When you do that, yes, and you still not there jail, you still at Walk Street, you still go and say you can become president once again. Where else in the world? Yes, God forbid that it ever happened in Jamaica, but true. Man can big you up for trying to overturn the structures of government that you yourself swear that you're going to defend, and which is the history of more than 200 years of struggle, and where you go out in the rest of the world and say that you must follow us and do it like us, and that you do, and you walk street and people give you money and say you're good. No. Come now. Right? So 1 year after, we are still the American people, and we really respect them, you know. Yeah? And they're good to us sometimes, and they take step with us other times. Yeah. Plenty of the people we're talking to in the diaspora, you know, is there they earn their bread and help and share and send it back here. So we're not condemning. But we say, think straight. Yeah? Think straight. You think you can come and mash up Parliament? Yeah? And call for murder and call for and injure people and kill people is what 5-6 people dead at that time, could have been more. And then I know nothing. You're joking. So what is treachery? What is treason? Okay, boy, I tell you, that is a funny thing. The man said, tell them to go, the people to go down Congress, you know, go down the road, yeah? And make sure that Pence don't validate Biden, but turn over to something, even though them lost by 7 million votes. Yeah? And you say you are a Democrat, and you're the leader of the democratic world, and millions of people there support you? How'd that go? And we are fight about Chief Curry and Andrew. No, sir. A joke. There is a difference between straight thinking and crooked thinking, you know. and we may not so educated and we're not so rich, but we have sense. Oh, you could do that. All right. Yeah, you know, that is my big question this morning. why we don't just call it as it is and live simply and recognize what an exceptional set of people we are, not to make us bossy, yeah, or to go on bad, but all of the badness and the mindlessness and the crime, yeah, that is going on there. How it makes sense? How it is demeaning the brilliance of our people, you know. You see, I have this notion that this country is a Garden of Eden, you know. Yeah? And that the mix-up of viewpoint, of history, the forgiveness, the admixture of the people is a sign for the rest of the world. Interestingly, just before we take the break, the Observer editorial, now the Observer is a newspaper in Jamaica, strong in the memory of the late Butch Stewart, who was formed it, and his family still owns it. Huh? But they're very supportive of the government, and they write an editorial this morning. The editorials are really not usually anyway. But they write an editorial this morning about the Prime Minister's crying the other day and getting vexed with Andre Wright. In fact, they repeat in the editorial much of the interchange there. And they end, however, with something that is of great importance. They justify the question that the reporter answered and say that without the theatrics, the Prime Minister's answer would have been sufficient to put the Maroon sovereignty question to bed, of course. But listen to this now. As we have been advocating ad nauseam, yes? Now, ad nauseam is a Latin phrase that means over and over again, till you throw up. As we have been advocating ad nauseam in this space, that's the editorial space of the Observer, I take them seriously. The government, listen now only, the government should get together with the opposition and unite the country against the gunmen and crime. That's the kind of response that is needed from leadership. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Observer. Oh my goodness. Sense come. Yeah? Bias done. Get together with the opposition. It will take more than that, but that's a start. Okay? And help us to rid ourselves of the gunmen and the crime. So why we not do it? Where are the consensus talks? Where is Ville Royal that's supposed to be the locus of national unity? Where is the sense of purpose and commitment to that from our leaders? Okay, that would be the question on the early rise this morning on the Bridge 99, and more to come after the break. Good morning, sir.
Morning. I heard a man in his bed that said, "Chaza, come on now. Chaza, come on now." As I hear that song, Chaza, come on
That's
now.
right now. And the one before tells a story too. There is no me without you, the Mighty Diamonds, right?
Yes.
Yeah, man.
So morning, Ronnie. How are you?
Well, thank you, sir.
You sound very great. You sound as if you had a good sleep last night and
you know,
ready to build a situation where you get food for the children.
Oh, it's not so. I'm respectful and hopeful of your son's elevation to the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries, and I was thinking about our condition, you know, and how we have blessings to give thanks for. I was listening to a program, Senegal, which is a mineral-rich nation, I believe.
Yes.
1 in every 5 children is severely malnourished. Yes? In Afghanistan, there are over 1 million children, little children, on the verge of starvation. Now, give thanks that we in Jamaica...
And then if you go along to Ethiopia and...
Sudan, Somalia...
No, the war between Ethiopia
Eritrea.
and Tigray.
Yes, the Tigray region. Yes. More like...
Not only children, but...
No, but I feel worse for the little children, you know.
Yes,
because
yes.
hunger bite them hot. Yes, you would know that more than me.
Yes.
No, but then we don't have that. We have malnourishment, but we don't have starvation in that way. Give thanks. that we find something that God has put us into this our Garden of Eden where this can be happened. Now, if we could set ourselves one project, Pearnel, that would simply say it is a priority to feed our young ones properly. Yes? Not with the imported food so much, though we know we can't do everything for ourselves, but that we would spend our money on feeding the children properly so they can learn, so they can behave, so that they can prosper as individuals and as a society. What a heaven that would be, sir?
If I were Minister of Agriculture,
yes, sir.
if I were given the portfolio and given 5,000 acres of land to be distributed to farmers.
Yes, sir.
When you come for 3 acres, I would say, see that plot? There's 1,000 acres there. All who are going to get land on that plot, this is what we are going to grow.
All right.
So if you're a part of the growing project that is going to, let us say, feed children,
Yeah.
over there you must get land.
I would love, you see, for awards.
That's us, so whole word. I am aware that people would like to get a piece of land.
Yeah.
To say them get piece of land.
Yeah.
Some plant, when you go into a liquor spot, every different thing is being planted. There's no organization. There's no radar man to say, listen, next week we are going to spray. Next week we are going to mold. Next week we are going to, because everything in this massive 500 plot is under control. So we are going to plant on that day because it's a planting season.
Okay, sir.
And,
Okay.
we could do much better.
We have some examples. When I see the pictures of what Gazana San is doing out in the Bernard Lodge area.
That's correct.
That's very good. When I used to hear my friend, our colleague, Hutchinson, speak about a production system where the Class A production went to export, the Class B went to domestic food, and the Class C was processed for school feeding. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, but it's Agro 21.
Clearly. But then why, help me now, why is there, we're bright people, we're brighter, we
know everything.
We're as bright as all the Singapore people. Yes? Why is it that we have such a gap between conception and execution? We have the ideas.
Yes.
We know it, as you say.
Yes.
But the execution fall down. I mean, I had...
That's it. That's something that you have to take a deep breath because you know what the answer is, but if you say it, it's embarrassing.
Well, you see? Well, now, to me, we have to say it. We have to be quite clear on it. And this is an issue. When you're talking about food, sir, there's no room for difference. There really isn't.
Well, your man said to me that most of the thieving go on for food.
Yeah.
Because if you don't eat food, you're going dead.
Yeah.
So some people take it to get more, and some people take it to survive.
Yes, sir.
90% of those who steal in,
yes, sir,
they're doing it for survival.
Let me draw your attention before we talk about cabinet reshuffle or anything. The Observer is a newspaper which I think fairly, and I'm not complaining, is partial to this government. Very partial. They write an editorial this morning. It's entitled Cry, Cry, O Beloved Country. And they're going over the whole issue of the Prime Minister's emotionalism, both in terms of his tears about crime and his annoyance, some would say anger, over the pretensions of the Maroons. Yes? Or some Maroons. But they go through the whole of that in detail. But they say at the end, as we have been advocating ad nauseam, yes, in this space, that is the editorial space. I haven't seen it, but they say they have been doing it. The government should get together with the opposition and unite the country against the gunmen and crime.
But they just hear what we've been saying here?
Yes, sir, but then...
They just hear what we've been saying in the bridge?
Yes, but they're a powerful voice, don't?
Yes,
and I'm thanking them for if they want the credit of saying it first, let them go on. That's fine. I don't mind anybody being first with a good idea. Yes.
Well, let's put it another way.
But it's not. Why is it not happening?
Well, put it another way.
Right, sir.
what they should have said or could have said, the government and the opposition, or the government should or the opposition should, because that is where the politics is causing the problem.
Yes, sir.
When you go for the opposition say, when I join you, is you going to get the praise.
Yes, sir. So call me out.
Eh?
Call me out. Call me out.
Call me out because...
and say, let Pearnel Charles be heard to say, on the highest ramparts of the land, I tried to sit down with Ronnie Thwaites and work out something to better inform people in the diaspora or to agree on school feeding or anything, and him say him now come.
But you just gave the solution. So the Prime Minister calls the leader of the opposition. Or as leader of the JLP, he calls the leader of the PNP. And he said, look, let us go this way. And he said, no. Then you call me and Ronnie.
Yeah.
Or the leader of the opposition call the Prime Minister and say, I have a suggestion that I think can solve the problem. Let us sit down. And he said, boy, no. Then you call it out.
Right.
Because it's not a one-sided thing. But,
No.
But the end result, if they agree, all of us should
virtuous.
benefit.
Of course. But then that one of the things that our presence here, sir, and our advocacy is to have a different kind of political culture than the one that is clearly not serving our needs as well as it could.
Well, you remember when two former prime ministers was on, I made a point.
Yes.
I say it's not the legal thing that is giving the problem. It's the politics.
Yes.
And if we can get over, I'm here to call it this way, but maybe it's the easiest way to send a message. If we can get over which side win in these compromise and say Jamaica win, then we're on the road.
So that is why I propose a situation where all who are interested in public service and are supported by the people can have a seat at the table, not just one tendency. I would have been so happy, for example, yes, this government, just to segue into another issue, this government has had a situation where some of the decisions that it has made based on law have not been as sound as they ought to be. The embarrassment of the Chief Justice having to say what he said in his during the NIDS, the identification thing, was distressing to me. Government must always get the best, the most unimpeachable legal advice on whatever it's doing. I would have preferred if we could have made some decisions. There's no doubt who's going to make the final choice,
Yes.
No doubt.
But the provision is there, That is why you have joint select committees.
Yeah, but we don't use them for that.
But I am saying we put joint select committee so that everything can be put on the table and we come out with a decision that both sides have to accept.
Well, maybe what we're getting to when we ask why don't we do what we know we ought to do, it is because we are not utilizing the measures that already exist, as you are pointing out, and we willfully or neglectfully go a different way. The idea that former Prime Minister Golding had years ago, yes, where cabinet ministers and very sensitive officers, I don't think cabinet ministers, but a raft of very sensitive officers should have to come for approval before Parliament.
Yes.
That's a very sound thing,
Oh, yes.
But what we do? What we do?
There's a whole heap of good suggestions that have been made that just go in the ear.
Yes, sir. But then,
Right.
and so we must stay.
No.
Yeah. And every generation must try and do better than the one before. So we
Ronnie,
really have to push it forward now.
Take my advice. Examine my advice.
Yeah.
Until we reach a stage where we don't look at the end result, but we look at the immediate. And at the end result mean, if we take the advice and sit down together, one side is going to win and says, me help you.
Yeah.
And if the government win, the opposition says, people say, boy, you're going to make the man have his change power. If the opposition win, the people say, well, you're trying to give power to them. Because power sits out there
Yeah.
as a mirror
Yeah.
in which they look, and if they don't see them, well, let's just say if we look
Yeah.
and we don't see ourselves,
Yeah.
then I come with it.
So wait, no? Both you and I have something in common. We're long-time married men.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
You could run you could arrange your relationships about most sensitive things in the way that you just described the ethos of the present politics. Could I have done that? No,
No,
it
but
wouldn't work.
no, but you see, the point is,
If
you're not going to get anything as good as what you have.
if you as patriarch of the Charles family, yes, had taken this view that at the end of the day I must win, my position must prevail, yes, because people going to say if the lady views contend, then what am you soft? You have to depend upon her. Yes.
Yeah, but
if you had taken that view, you wouldn't be where you are now.
No, and I tell you something that I can remember at least on one occasion
Yes, sir.
where I know she wasn't right,
Yeah.
But she insists she's right,
Yeah.
And I say, you're right.
Uh-huh.
You're right.
Yeah. And you're not the worse for it.
Hold on. Months after that, I say, you remember that day?
Yes, yes.
I tell her, I tell her, you see, I was right.
Yes, sir.
And she said, I think you're right. No. But in happiness.
You know why I laugh? Because that is I can relate to that.
Yes.
Yes. We're probably both married the same length of time.
Yes.
And over 50 years. And all I'm saying is, it's not an exact parallel, but take the domestic situation.
Yes.
And the accommodation that needs to happen, yes, which is not an accommodation of weakness. It is an accommodation of respect and cherish for the capacity and the commitment of the other person or the other persons in a different tendency, okay? Elevate that to the community and to the national level, and understand that what we have taken from Westminster comes out of a different culture. We can understand why Manley and Bustamante may have adhered to that. Yes, you know the history, I know it too. Yeah. But it is no longer serviceable.
No,
and that the advice
things have changed.
And that the advice, sir, given by the Observer on this, the 11th day of January 2022, is essential, and yet we are not doing it.
Ronnie, last week I said something to you that we need to come off of the Prime Minister and the police back on crime and put it into some community and some of the people, put it nationally. Now, the Observer saying this morning, both of you guys get together, I wish that they will keep their eyes on this proposal. We will follow it up. Because we want to see that these two men leading the party and leading the government, opposition and majority, PNP and JLP, say, look here, the time has come for the end result to be united.
No, I don't know. I'm a member of the PNP.
Yes.
I sit on their national executive by their kindness.
Yes.
Yes. I don't know that the views that I'm expressing would be easily accepted by the rank and file of that party. I suspect that there will be many who say, Ronnie, you're gone soft.
Well,
yes?
they're going to say, Ronnie, if we do that now,
why
if
choose
we
us?
cooperate with them now,
Why choose
things
us?
will never change.
No.
And so we will never get in power.
No, I don't accept that.
That is what the JLP
indeed,
would say.
Sure.
And that's what the PNP would
Sure.
say.
So,
because power is the ultimate. I will join you if when the result comes out, I go and get more vote more than you.
Yeah. Well, you see, then in my view, I gave 25 years, you give 40 plus years.
Yes.
If that view prevails that you just articulated truthfully, our time would not have been worthwhile. Because what that means is that the national interest is always subordinated to the party interest. Yes?
That is correct.
No, but you see
But Ronnie, it has been there. I remember, I don't think I was at that meeting, but it's always said at Belmont Road. It's a certain time when the JLP people, they want to tear up Norman Manley. Bust out say, leave my cousin alone. Leave my cousin alone. Let's get on with the business.
Hello, sir. That's why he's a national hero. And that's why some people are not national heroes. Yes? Because you're represented, yes, not perhaps not perfectly, who is, but you represented a national interest. Yes? What brought us to this discussion? We were talking about feeding little children. What can be more uniting? What can be more fruitful? Who can be against the proper nutrition of our little children, which is one of the answers. Hello, sir. One of the answers to crime is feed picnic properly,
Yes.
Yes.
And, we were discussing this thing off the air with somebody else.
Yeah.
And they said to me, we must miss the boat because Bruce and PJ were two persons
committee
who should have the end result in a united form.
Okay.
Because they had similar approach,
He had the two of them
similar
on the
ideas,
bridge the other day.
and up to now, they have similar beliefs in various things. But guess what? When them go back a Belmont Road or go back a Hope Road, man ask you, well, say if you do that, Golden going to win.
Yes, sir.
And if you do that, PJ going to win.
And I'm saying there's a higher cause. I'm saying there's a higher cause, and there is a point in which leadership has to say, "Get thee behind me, Satan." No, pull on. The Bible analogy before we break for the agricultural thing is important. That is what the devil tried to do with Jesus on the brow of the hill,
Yes.
Catch him while he's hungry, fast,
Yes.
and say to him, "I will give you all the bread."
Yes.
Don't worry about what your father sent you here for.
Yes.
Don't worry about being humble and accommodating. Yes, and obedient to the Father. I will give you the riches of the whole world.
Yes.
Yes.
And if they get behind me,
Get behind
and
me.
I mean, go to hell.
Go to hell.
I go where you are going to go to hell.
Well, hold on. So, for me, the scriptures, well, from all of us, many far better than me.
But it's true.
The scriptures are a guide to the principles of life.
Yes.
And so that is the point we are at now. Yes, we're if the PNP were government tomorrow morning, yes, I might think they may do marginally better than what is being done now. Okay, but they could not solve Jamaica's problems by themselves.
And Ronnie, in fact, I told a member of the Observer 2 days ago that I've seen a difference in the Observer.
Yes.
I'm feeling it heavier.
I do too.
And I am buying it because says so, and I am not unhappy in saying that the Observer has come a little further, right? And I'm showing from the respect of Butch, who has done a lot to it. And I hope that they continue. But this point, they should not drop it. They should move it from the editorial to the headlines. And we will work it. And the people of Jamaica.
Yeah. So
why do you think people not voting?
But exactly, because they don't see no
when they vote, they're voting for war zones.
Sure.
One zone or the other.
Sure.
And the end result, if the two zones are coming out with something that they could work with, they'll be happy to vote.
And then, by contrast, and not as a criticism, the Gleaner's headline this morning is about the same deck of cards.
Yes.
Which almost has an edge of despair, of depression in it. It speaks a truth. Yes, but it speaks an unnecessary truth, and a truth which in fact may be all constitutional, may be absolutely realistic, but it ain't necessarily so. Is we make it so, is we keep it so, and it is not to our advantage.
Well, let us say, I hate to politicize both papers. I would ask you, which side is the PNP and which side is the JLP?
I gone past those designations. Past those designations now.
Yeah, but you see, I cry. I instead of crying tears.
Yeah.
Sometimes the blood comes.
The blood comes.
Blood.
That happened to Jesus in extremis,
Ronnie, let me tell you something. I hear people laughing at Andrew.
Yes.
Let me tell you something. If you were in that position where everybody is saying you must solve it, and everything you try can't work, or won't work, or it won't make it work, or you're not trying the right thing, Not tears will come out of your eye. Blood.
Yeah, but as I said to you yesterday morning, I don't blame him for that. I understand that. I understand the depth of his humanity.
It's an emotion.
Yeah, but he overstepped a line beyond that, which he should not have done, and which he should simply say, look.
You mean in blaming someone?
Of course.
Yes. I understand, but I wouldn't expect you to agree with that. Although in my politics of me, I would say, so what? But then I want to jump above that.
Yes, of course.
I want to jump above that.
And that is the essence of your integrity. Let's take a break. On the bridge, the early rise, Pearnel, Charles, and myself talking about the affairs of the nation. We very humbly, without pretension, we're talking about the possibilities of a new beginning, a new age in our political life. Soon come back. The Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Jacqueline Bisesa Mackenzie, says that Jamaica could reach the peak week of the fourth wave of COVID-19 by the end of January, early February. According to a release, Dr. Mackenzie says the projections from the Ministry of Health and Wellness are that the country could see as many as 11,500 confirmed cases of COVID during that peak week, and that the deaths could increase in the region of 200 to 300 in that week. Chief, that's a serious prognosis, you know.
Well, somebody said something which frightens me. Because what they're saying is, look, it doesn't matter what you want, you guys are going now with. Like you have lived with viruses in the past,
yes.
Make up your mind that you're going to have to live with this one way in the forward life. So that means we're going to have it. So all those people who say they're not going to take the vaccine will be a threat. It will be a threat to them, and they will be a threat to the rest of us.
So when I hear the Minister of Health say over the weekend in very guarded ways, look here, we have to identify people who are making themselves, because of their inaction or opposition, a threat to everybody else.
Yes.
I thoroughly agree with him.
Yes.
He's right.
Yes.
The rest, all of us are in danger. We cannot be put into more danger by people who are stubbornly selfish for whatever good or bad reasons. Let's make that clear.
Why don't me and you, or you and I, pick up what the Observer has said this morning and said to the PNP and the JLP, take the lead.
Sure.
Because if the leaders of both political parties say to all who are standing and clapping them, fingers and fists, you must take the vaccine in order to follow me to Jerusalem.
Yeah. Well, you know.
Wouldn't it make a difference?
Of course it would. Of course it would. And it is a correct position. And you're not forcing everybody, but you're saying this is the correct position to take. This is a science. This is a part, in my view, of my political duty.
Yeah, but I am not going with you with the first line, because that sounds apologetic.
Okay.
To say that I'm not forcing you.
All right.
I am saying if I am going to lead you,
yes.
You have to prepare yourself to follow me.
Right.
And to follow me, you have to come out of the danger zone.
Yes.
And if the chief medical
officer
in the world
says this,
and the chief scientist in the world say they have spent millions of dollars and so much time to analyze this virus, and say to you who don't go to basic school or don't go to high school, and you're talking nonsense that they are talking nonsense. It's like a man walking on the street, and I said, come out on the road, and him say, you go here. He tell me if you go here, you're a madman. Him tell me, say, he's a madman, you know.
And
that is what they are saying, that the chief medical person, the chief scientist, don't know what they are saying, and them who don't go to school have better sense.
Okay, I agree with you, sir, and I think that is the way to do it. If I could serve the coffee or open the car door at Vale House, Vale Royal, for these people to go and have that kind of discussion. And hear me now, last sentence on this. Lock the gate and you can't come out until you come out with a joint decision.
Well, what a joy it would be if you hear that a national forum,
Sure.
either downtown or at Halfway Trees call, and the both political leaders have invited their side to come because leave the PNP and the JLP symbols and shirts.
We have a national cause.
We have a national cause.
Right. Whether it is
and
COVID
they both
or crime
stand up and
or
say,
corruption.
we are saying to you,
Yes, this is it. Yeah.
to follow me.
Yeah.
You must get the joke.
Yeah. Okay. What a difference. Instead of 30%, we ought to go to 70%.
But if you expect one side to do it.
No, precisely. Well, I won't even ask who you think should take the lead in that regard. But let's spend a few minutes before we welcome Mike McLaughlin of Trees and Feed. What do you think of the cabinet reshuffle? You know I was going to ask you that question. Lord God, you know I was going to ask you.
Well, to tell you the truth, I understand the politics of that too. My surprise is what you have been saying, that Montague is chairman of the Labour Party. And yet he has been taken out of... and maybe where he's put, he's going to be better off. I don't know what the assignments are going to be. Because when you go to OPM, when you go to the Prime Minister, you're given particular assignment.
Of course.
And so maybe we have to wait and see what the assignments are going to be. But I look at the opposition of what else could do. When the Gleaner says same deck, what they expect some private sector people to do here?
Well,
I have to use people who have been elected.
Well, under the present situation, you have to use people who are elected or who are appointed to the Senate in a certain number. But what I sense is a deeper desperation, and a correct desperation, or an understandable desperation, better, as to the limitations that are involved. And I want to say that I would much rather a cabinet that involved the best minds in the House of Representatives and the Senate overall, and it would look very different from the one that's there now. But we haven't reached that stage yet.
No, well, I tell you something. I am going to ask you for us to have a 5-minute discussion of the year for you to tell me better minds, better education, better experience, better politics of the situation. You know, because, you know, I mean, we have some young, brilliant just comers who don't know much more than that they've been elected and they have to learn the job. And somebody called me and said, they moved Pearnel again. I said, so he's very fortunate. He's learning, he's getting a chance to go around, right? And he should go out there and do the work. He's a young boy. He came out of what I carried from detention of 1 year. You know that.
You've told me the story, but that it is good, and a lot is expected. His learning curve is going to have to be very short, and we wish him the very best, and want to offer the fulsome support, not with water in our mouth, but with the national interest in front of our face. Yes. No, that is the case. With regard to Minister Montague, I think his instincts are good. I think he has capacity and experience, and
let us see what he's going to be given from.
I hope that he will set targets. He will indicate what he's committing himself to, whether it's in housing, land reform, environment, whatever. And that we can hold him to his those needs, to those objectives, but that he will do as well as he can there.
Montague is a good guy.
Well,
I am talking about what I know. I can only judge a person from what I see, and from what I see, I know.
But I'm telling you that there are that without prejudice or criticism of any of the appointments, except perhaps one, which is really just
don't say it on the air.
No, I won't. I wouldn't do that. We have to. These are the ones we have to work with, and we have to work within the spirit of accommodation and so on. But the exclusion of talent from elsewhere in the political spectrum or from outside of the political realm entirely is not helping us.
As where you want us to go.
Of course.
And I, don't get the impression that I'm disagreeing with you.
No.
Because I believe that the present political system, if we continue with that, we are working with two walls that not going to have any join up top.
Let me I seldom want to be personal on this. When I was Minister of Education, yes, for a considerable length of time, Mrs. Dalrymple Philibert was the opposition spokesperson. I welcomed her in my office. I offered her a place to come when she came to Kingston, to come and sit down so she could listen, share the papers with me, yes, from the ministry. Asked the permanent secretary, chief education officer, to be available to her anytime she had a question, yes, that she wanted regarding education, yes. Right now, if the present minister or the previous one, when Royal Reid was appointed, I wrote him and said, any time that I can be of assistance or advice to you, there's no more political role. I'm not running for anything. And even if I were, the cause of educating the children, as I was seized of it, I didn't know it before, quite in the same intense way. You and I know when you're in the ministries, you see how acute some of the needs and problems are.
Yes.
For God's sake. So because your side voted out, or because you lose a seat, yes, then you're suddenly going to absent yourself from that and say, no.
Because you lose the seat, you want everybody else lose, so you can't win.
What damn foolishness is this? The passion to feed the little children, to make sure that literacy rates are up, to reform the system. That doesn't end when you walk out of that office. If it did, what cretinous position would that be?
Somebody asked me, what is this OPM where the Prime Minister has been taking these things? And I say, I think the Prime Minister is going to get an opportunity to sit down with all who have gone there with him, talk to them, and assign them differently than the public situation. Because you have Warmington, you have Montague, you have a few others.
Samuda?
Yes, young Samuda, who seems to be a right young man too. You know? So let us see, the Prime Minister is going to shed these things that has gone there to these young men or to these men, and work with them, warn them, show them that this is the
another
way.
man there, the other gentleman from your previous constituency, Morgan.
He's
there too.
Yes, young Morgan. Yes.
I'm prepared to go with just what you have said.
Yes.
Let us divide, let us shed, let us define responsibilities. But there was a criticism that was levied against former Prime Minister Siaga. Yes, that there was too much of a centralization of power around him. That was a valid criticism.
Yes.
Mr. Holness must not walk the same road.
Yes.
Okay? And the responsibility of devolution is very important. The division of labor is the foundation of efficiency.
Critical
yes.
to that, yes.
Okay. So that's the only reservation I have. Now listen to what you and I are doing.
But you have just captured a little part of my mind.
Yeah.
To agree with you that when you take these things, if you hold them, you're worse off than
precisely
than the beginning.
Not only that, sir, but allow me to wax
go ahead,
psycho-spiritually for 2 sentences. You do that, yes, when you have either lack of confidence in other people,
yes,
or when you feel that you are some kind of super person.
Yes.
None of us are super persons. All of us have elements of superiority in our talents, in our capacity. Okay, and if you are responsible, you must have final authority. A Prime Minister does, yes. But if you think you can really manage the whole of the business of parts of the nation, it is an expression of pride and hubris, and we have to watch against that. That is not to say that this is a description of what Mr. Holness has done.
Yeah, but you have to be a super person to do that, to see it that way.
Yeah, well.
You have to be a super person to know you're not Superman, a superwoman.
Well, again, I've always found, oh boy, where Pearnel and I going this morning? Because I've always found that my wife is most helpful in that regard.
You what?
Yeah, my wife
Yes.
is most helpful in reminding me that I am not a super person.
Well, suppose I give me 10 seconds. When I was moved from local government
Yeah,
to the Ministry of Public Utilities and Transport,
yes.
we used to have power cut like every hour and water cut every other hour. And Ronnie, 3 weks
Yes.
after I was moved,
Yes.
every time there's a power cut, here my wife, Pearnel, you again? I said, Gloria, where you get this? She
Good
said,
for your humility.
and when we stopped getting power cut, I said, how come I don't hear you calling me anymore?
Yes. Well, obviously you were doing better in her mind. Now we have an interesting guest this morning on the program. McLaughlin is one of the founders of a foundation called Trees That Feed. Trees That Feed. He's based in Illinois. We know. I'm just introducing him, and he's not online yet, and we'll take a break before then. Okay, but this is a movement which I know a little about, and which is able to expand the kind of production of breadfruit, of other things. Trees That Feed speaks for itself. And again, I remember Steve McDonald from Toronto, who we spoke to a couple of weeks ago. Yes, he has sent me pictures of the product that is coming from Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, labeled Jamaica, okay? And when I show you the breadfruit and what it is costing there, you realize what a potential we have. Let's discuss that a little later with Mac McDonald. So before we do take the break, it's 20 minutes after 6 o'clock. Give us 5 minutes? All right. The situation now with the virus.
Could you hold the virus for
Sure.
10 seconds?
Okay.
I want to make a comment on the trees.
Yes.
Look how fortunate we are. All we have to do is find a place on earth to plant the tree, water it, and watch it grow.
Yeah.
The Lord take it from there,
Yeah.
grow it up,
Yeah.
blossom it,
Yes, sir.
give it fruit, and fit and ripe and tell it to come and pick. You don't have to do 1/10 of the work with a tree,
Yeah.
The Lord do all of that.
Yeah.
So we need to just
So-
plant them,
Okay, sir.
guide them,
So
and plant the right tree.
Come, let us really be extreme this morning. If my Prime Minister said to me, I need a state of emergency for 3 months, yes, in order to place 50,000 young people, unattached young people, prone to crime, yes, in reforesting the Blue and Jonker Mountains, the Don Figueroa Mountains, etc.
Yes.
And I want the money in the second supplementary estimates that Minister Clark is laying this afternoon to fund the seedlings and the labor, etc. And I want the army to
guide that to maturity.
To guide that to maturity. He would have my vote. If he wants it, and the police officials and army are telling him that you need a state of emergency in order to lock up those same young people so that you can gather evidence against them and you don't bring them before the court, I will denounce his move.
Well, you can count. You have 2 votes.
Look at that.
But Ronnie, a few weeks ago, I drove through what was your constituency.
Yeah.
It has not come out of my mind.
Yeah.
There were more than 150 young men.
Yeah.
Look at them. They all come from the same family.
Same family.
They look the same way. They dress the same way.
Yeah.
They have the same height.
Yeah.
And I said, there's no school around there that could hold 300 of those guys from one area.
No.
What the hell they do in the days?
Yes.
And what happened after the night come down and they stop playing? Do they have any food? Do they have any home to go? They sit down and they say,
no good can come from idleness and fecklessness and illiteracy.
Boss, what we are going to eat tonight?
Yeah.
Which man shop we are going to take?
Well, this is it.
Yeah.
And they can't even have a decent love affair because which girl going to take somebody and stay with them who can't find food for the picnic?
I said, they done come in.
Yeah.
Because they done tell the mother to send the girl come over here
Well,
because I have food.
Yeah.
Right, but Ronnie, how?
We have to
Somebody
break.
is asking me, I hear a man say to his wife, oh, them a talk the right thing. They never say it when they was
Yeah,
there.
true, and guilty.
So we have to admit.
Guilty as charged, but that is no answer. Either what I'm saying is right, and therefore, even if it is late, we're going to try to put it forward and to do it. That is the answer to that question.
And we have the Observer this morning
Backing it up.
saying
What
the
a
right
thing.
thing.
What a
And
thing.
the Gleaner is saying, to hell with that.
No, they're not saying that. No,
they say, same old deck of card.
I'm going to defend the Gleaner, but never mind. After this break.
I know you have to defend the Gleaner.
I wonder why. This is the Early Rise on the Bridge 99 FM. It's 25 after 6. We soon come back with Mike McLaughlin of Trees That Feed Foundation. Welcome to the Early Rise on the Bridge 99 FM, Pearnel, Charles, and myself. Mike McLaughlin, morning and welcome home. Are you there?
Make sure you can hear me.
I can hear you right now. How are things?
Terrific, terrific.
Good.
I'm in the cold North America.
Yes, well, thank you for enduring that purgatory in order to help us all. Greetings to you and to Mary Lou. May I introduce the Honorable Pearnel Charles, who is our co-host on this program.
Pleased to meet you, sir.
Yes, sir. Good morning. So,
Michael McLaughlin, tell us what Trees That Feed Foundation does. Tell us its origin and tell us how it can help us in Jamaica and in the Caribbean to have a better life.
Thanks for the opportunity. Okay, Trees That Feed is about 12 years old. So my lovely wife, Mary, and I were both from Jamaica. We left some years ago to make our own life and have a family and get settled in the U.S. So we've been here for a long time, but never forgotten our Jamaican roots, I can assure you of that. And so about 12 years ago, we thought, okay, the environment is kind of in trouble. There's more carbon dioxide in the air, there's storms, there's issues that we can't single-handedly stop, but we can do something about instead of just wringing our hands in despair. So we decided to plant trees. And so the idea originally was an environmental idea, but then very quickly we realized if we planted a fruit tree instead of just a timber tree, a pine tree, teak tree, we could feed people. So we decided we want to do two good things at the same time. Plant a fruit tree, you get the environmental benefit, you get the food benefit. And by the way, we discovered that we also were creating jobs. So that's how that started. We're based in the US. We do fundraising in the US. We're a nonprofit organization. And then we try to benefit our friends in Jamaica, Haiti, 18 countries in all.
18.
And so what we try to do, 18 countries, Central America, Caribbean, and now more and more in Africa.
And what do you do? What do you encourage to happen in those countries? What are the trees that can feed?
We plant fruit trees, so that's where we start with smallholder farmers, or with individuals, or even with commercial enterprises to a certain extent. So the idea here is feeding people. So we plant, we give away trees basically, and then we have programs that support the survival of the trees. Every now and then you hear of an organization that's going to plant 1 million trees or 1 billion trees. There's a 1 trillion tree program. It sounds very good. How many of those live? Well, what we try to do is to have other supplementary programs to make sure the trees live. One of the main things that we do is try to encourage the economic value, to bring out the economic value of the tree. So you're getting the food, the environmental benefit, and the economic benefit.
Tell us about the concentration of that I know you have had on breadfruit.
Correct. Well, we grew up in Jamaica, as I mentioned, and we had, in breadfruit season, we would have breadfruit with every meal. And so we have the appreciation of the quality of this food. And as we got into planting trees, we realized, we looked around, what are the best trees? And there's some, everybody loves a juicy mango, but it's very sweet, it's sugary. You can't live off of that. But a breadfruit, which is starchy, it's a carbohydrate, but it has tremendous other nutrition as well. That's something you could practically live on breadfruit alone. So we've focused on breadfruit, but we're not only breadfruit, because we try to plant the trees that are suitable to that environment. So depending on your elevation, soil, rainfall, ability to fertilize, there's different kinds of trees that might be most suitable for that area. But yes, Ronnie, you're correct that we probably do, we certainly do more breadfruit than anything else. Probably about half of all the trees that we distribute are breadfruit.
How do you get the trees into the environments of those many countries that you've mentioned, and who are the local counterparts, if you can particularize Jamaica, that people listening all over the world, the diaspora is a demographic that we concentrate on this station, Mike. How can they know about and help with this movement?
Great question. And so what we started doing was bringing in interesting, new, different varieties of breadfruit into Jamaica. So the first place that we showed up was Jamaica, and Jamaica really is where we do most of our activities. Probably half of all our activity is Jamaica, with everything else making up the balance. So we actually discovered an ability to propagate breadfruit trees in large quantities through a process called tissue culture. It's the same process that's used to propagate vegetables, decorative flowers, and so on. It's harder to propagate a woody type of tree, but we were able to find an organization in California. And with research done by the Breadfruit Institute in Hawaii, they have been able to propagate several new varieties that we brought into Jamaica in 2009. So that's where we started. And it's a good solution because those trees are, although very small when we ship them in, they're very vigorous and they grow quickly. And so within 2 to 3 years, you start to get fruit from these trees. But they are expensive. And what we try to do is to have a sustainable solution. So what we're doing in Jamaica and elsewhere is finding local nurseries, tree nurseries, that are able to propagate the breadfruit tree. And so there was some work done at the College of Agriculture, Science and Education in Portland. They discovered a way to root culture, or they developed a way to root culture breadfruit trees from the roots. We have a farmer, a nurseryman in Portland, Mr. McLaughlin, and he produces a lot of trees for us, young trees that we distribute. And so we're trying to do that in other countries as well. But Jamaica is probably where we're having the most success in local propagation and in the other programs that support the survival of the tree. I hope I'm answering all your questions.
No, you are, And Pearnel, I've had experience of one of the particular varieties of breadfruit. It has two important characteristics. Well, more than two, but one, it bears after 2 or 3 years, and it bears year round. And also, it is relatively short, diminutive when it is grown, because as you know, we lose a lot of the traditional of breadfruits from the traditional trees because people can't easily pick them. Now so it's an agronomic advance as well as a nutritional advance, and therefore an economic benefit.
Let me show you one. The farmers in Jamaica were never taught that trees could be a crop. They plant yam, they plant potato, they plant other things, but they have never planted trees as a crop.
Yes.
And then wait for the 30 months for it to start to produce.
Yeah.
So birds plant more trees
than
more fruit trees in Jamaica than men. So they have probably 10 or 15 varieties of ackee.
Yes.
There are several varieties of breadfruit.
Yes.
You know, there's a white heart, there's a brown heart, there's a rough heart. There's several.
Holy for them. Mac
This
knows
is
them
a
more.
great thing now that.
Yes.
But Ronnie, I want to say to Mac, we have a problem with bringing trees from abroad.
Mm-hmm.
Because one variety that comes here can kill off everybody.
Do you have any phytosanitary obstacles, Mike McLaughlin?
We are very rigorous about complying with all government regulations. So before we bring trees in from California, they are inspected. So we have a phytosanitary inspection. We get import permits from the country, Jamaica, in this case, so that we're strictly compliant with all the, agricultural and agronomical regulations. So we've not had a problem with introducing any kind of pests, anything like that. And the breadfruit, remember, is not an invasive type species. In fact, it's the opposite. So in fact, if humans don't get involved in propagating breadfruit, they will gradually diminish. And in fact, that happened in Jamaica. So Jamaica, if you remember the days of Captain Bligh, we think he brought 5 varieties to Jamaica. And we, much later on, introduced 5 more. So there's at least 10 in Jamaica. But those were aggressively propagated by the plantation owners and by the enslaved people. There's many a story going back there where the enslaved people were clever enough to be able to propagate more breadfruit trees. So at one point, Jamaica probably had 2 million breadfruit trees.
Wow.
They gradually diminished. Why? Because people took it for granted. They didn't realize what a wonderful food they had there. And Mr. Charles, you're correct. Farmers were not taught that trees could be a crop. And the reason for that is you got to wait a while for the tree to bear, 2 or 3 years. And so you have to be doing something else in the meantime. But 2 or 3 or 4 years is pretty quick when you think this tree is going to be giving you fruit for another 100 years or more. And you don't have to replant your tree. It's going to pay you dividends twice a year in bountiful food production.
I'm looking, Mac McDonald, at a picture which I'm going to show Pearnel Charles, sent to us by our mutual friend Steve in Toronto, Mac McLaughlin, Steve McDonald, where breadfruit is being sold at $4 Canadian per pound. Now, how much is $4 Canadian is nearly 500 Jamaican dollars. Now, I don't know how much an average breadfruit weighs, but what I'm pointing out is that the effort that you are making is not only speaks to nutrition locally, and I do want you to speak a little bit about the processing possibilities, but it also has an export potential, doesn't it?
Tremendous export potential. And by the way, a typical Jamaican yellow heart breadfruit is anywhere from 4 to 6 pounds and sometimes more.
Wow.
One of the varieties that we introduced is a smaller fruit, which is kind of an individual serving, if you want to think of it that way, and it roasts very quickly. But it's tremendously nutritious locally in Jamaica and potentially for export. Already we're seeing export.
Yeah. Well, look at this, because just people love the money figures, Mr. Charles.
Yes.
If you have a 5-pound yellow heart breadfruit selling at that rate, granted that's a final price, huh? But that's 2,500 Jamaican dollars, sir.
Yes. But Ronnie, more people are eating breadfruit in Jamaica today than they were years ago.
Yes, sir.
Every corner you go, they might only have a bunch of breadfruit. They roast them on the corner.
Of course.
So people can now buy a roast breadfruit and go
carry
home.
it home.
So,
Put a
Mike,
consulting with
your initiative
Yes.
has caused an increase breadfruit consumption, breadfruit being consumed in Jamaica.
Yes.
Now what we need to do is get the plants to the farmers, get the Minister of Agriculture to let the farmer know that same how you plant cane and the same how you plant other things, you can plant breadfruit and don't leave out ackee.
Yes, go away. Mike McLaughlin, you may not have heard the news yet.
You have about 15 kinds of ackees in Jamaica.
I want to tell Mike that that Mr. Charles's son, Pearnel Charles Jr., has overnight been appointed Minister of Agriculture. So we want to
Well,
bring.
we would be delighted to speak with him.
Yes.
We have been working, as you know, for these 12 years, and I really do think, and thank you, Mr. Charles Sr., for pointing out, I do think that the effort that we have put into promoting breadfruit is paying off. I think people are better nourished and more aware of the benefits of fruit. In the olden days when I was a young boy, people took it for granted. Everybody had a breadfruit tree in their backyard.
Yes.
And then when it was bearing,
for home consumption.
More fruit than you could possibly eat.
Yeah, you eat a pig. McLaughlin, before you go, tell us what your research, your observation has told you about processing some of these fruits, some of these trees that feed the product. What do you know? What can we summarize about that?
Well, the breadfruit, as delicious as it is, if you leave it on your kitchen counter for a few days, it's no good anymore. So it has a very short shelf life. If it's processed and preserved, all of a sudden you have a long shelf life. One of the things that we recommend is processing it into a flour. And so we've helped a number of entrepreneurs to process fresh breadfruit, shred it, dry it, grind it into a flour, which now has a shelf life measured in months and years. And so now, when you have the excess fruit in bearing season, it's too much for you to even eat, but that excess fruit can be processed. And by the way, once it's processed and has a long shelf life, it's all the more exportable. And when you're exporting a fresh fruit, it's a race to get the fruit to market fresh, but the flour will last for a year.
I gather the flour is gluten-free also, which has a dietary advantage.
And that, sir, is why it will have tremendous export appeal. The gluten-free market is 500,000 tons a year, and it can't be satisfied. And so if every square inch of Jamaica was breadfruit trees, you wouldn't be able to meet the gluten-free demand. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little, but it has tremendous export potential. Not only gluten-free, but we've done nutritional analysis. You alluded to that a little earlier, but it has iron and protein and potassium and minerals and vitamin C. It's a tremendous food source. And so, yes, there's a group in Jamaica, a couple of different groups in Jamaica, Shavuot Farms, Carita, Jeffreytown, a number of others are making products, whether it's flour or chips that are dried, so that also has a long shelf life. And so now you have not just the delicious roasted breadfruit for Sunday lunch, but a whole variety of different recipes, products, whether from fresh or from preserved fruit. This is a very versatile food source. So yes, one of the things that we're doing is looking.
Could I tell you I have discovered?
Then, sure.
Go ahead. I have discovered, my wife has just shown me, that if you peel the breadfruit, slice it up, freeze it.
Yeah.
Freeze it in the freezer.
Yeah, man.
She have a whole freezer. She can't run out of breadfruit for the next few months.
Good
and when
for
you take it out, you steam it. Have you had steamed breadfruit?
No, sir.
When you get a bunch, I want to
sure
carry
have.
a bunch of frozen breadfruit for you.
Yes, sir.
And you steam it down like you steam down bammy. Man,
Good for you. Tastes
fantastic.
good. Mac McLaughlin, how can people listening to us abroad from Jamaica, how is there a website? How do they connect with Trees That Feed Foundation?
We would love to hear from not only Mr. Pearnel Charles Jr., but from everyone. And so we have a very good website, Trees That Feed. So just the way it sounds, treesthatfeed.org. And so we have a lot of information there. We share a lot of information. We share everything that we know. We have no secrets. In fact, just a quick reference back to farmers. Here am I, a city boy, training farmers, teaching, educating in the value of the food and how to take care of the trees, the fertilizing, organic fertilizer, I will quickly add.
Yes.
Watering, the pruning, the care of the trees, how to plant a tree. It's not just digging a little hole in the ground. So yes, we just see tremendous opportunity. We'll share any information we have. If there's farmers listening to this, go to our website and scroll down, click, and there's a button you can request trees from us. And we're giving the trees away for free. What the farmer has to do is dig the holes and of course take care of the tree. And then you have the bountiful nutrition and
economic potential
benefit.
What an offer. Thank you so much. Don't weary in well doing. Proud of you and Mary Lou. Greetings to you both, and thanks so much. We're always you're willing to be hosts of your information on the bridge. Thanks so much, Mike McLaughlin.
There's so much more we can talk about.
I can imagine.
Thank you for that.
We will make sure
And
to
say hello to all the
that.
Jamaicans for us.
Yes, good news. Mike McLaughlin, co-founder of Trees That Feed Foundation,
And
our guest on the early rise this morning. We'll soon come back.
And Ronnie, I'm going to show you something that you have never seen in breadfruit in all your life.
Yeah.
And it happens at my home,
Yeah.
in my tree.
Yeah.
Take a look at it.
Mercy. I didn't know that this gentleman was a backyard farmer too. You know, look at it.
No, he's a front yard farmer.
Front yard farmer, excellent.
You have ever seen twin breadfruit?
No, look at it. Can you imagine? Yes, really, a twin breadfruit. They're married.
And I
Siamese.
said to my helper who picked it before, if she had shown me so I could picture it on the tree.
Yes.
Because some people say, I join
join them.
Not,
Yes.
not go so.
We take a break. Pearnel Charles is showing me a picture of his twin breadfruit. I wish we had a television camera, you know, Richie. He's showing me a picture of twin plantain, and somebody sent you a picture of twin lime.
That's right.
You show me too.
Nobody can believe
Yeah.
that two breadfruit
Yeah,
come out of two stems,
yeah.
join
together.
when they were small,
Yeah.
and
And
solidly
grow that way.
grow that way.
Eat good same way. Yeah, but listen to me. What is this telling us now? First of all, what an entrancing interview with Mike McLaughlin.
Yes.
One of many. Here's people who gone abroad, but they don't forget Jamaica.
Right.
And in fact, they turn their resources and their efforts into improving things for Jamaica.
They discover things
Yeah.
while they were abroad
Yeah.
that we are not doing in Jamaica that can make our lives much better.
But that's the relationship that Jamaica wants, that we want to have with our diaspora. Eh?
Oh, yes.
That is the purpose of the bridge. Yes?
And the
That's-
diaspora people are proud when they hear
Well, look here.
that what they are gaining abroad
of course.
and sent to
Yes,
us,
yes.
not only in
Yes.
suitcase and barrel,
No.
but in the brain
Right.
that can make life
Yeah.
better for all
Sure.
of us. Because
And-
the input,
Yes.
that is they set it up for us.
Uh-huh.
If we can supply the goods, can you so surprise
No,
breadfruit?
but you see, I end this program this morning on a note of optimism, because when he speaks of the unsatisfied market for gluten-free breadfruit flour, yes, when we are faltering with cane and sugar, and bananas not so good as they used to be, all the other things, why not, as we tried it with Agro 21, it worked to an extent, but the potential is so much greater even now. When somebody can get the equivalent of $2,500, $3,000 Jamaican dollars for a breadfruit in Canada, I would want to gift wrap them and send them.
But Ronnie, the problem was that we were not in a position to have the Jamaicans abroad to find a market. So remember, all breadfruit come in one time. So we have thousands of breadfruit ripe and drop off.
Yeah, but Miss Charles,
mangoes ripe and drop off.
but Miss Charles
So
can tell them how to do that now, because
Exactly.
she can
Cut-
use the breadfruit, cut it up.
slice it, wrap it in silver
Very
tin,
good.
freeze it,
Yes.
and keep it for 3 months.
Exactly, sir. So we know with the science, the combination of the Garden of Eden that we have, and the science applied to the products, therefore, and the human ingenuity and the generosity of spirit that we're getting from local people, but
Mike,
also from people.
Mike, just give us another one, you know.
Yes, yes,
That if we dry the breadfruit
yes, sir.
and grind it into breadfruit
Flour.
flour. Can you imagine? I didn't even know of that one.
Yes, sir.
I have to go and test that.
and the
so we can have breadfruit dumpling.
Sure. And the process of doing it, I can tell you, is relatively simple. A small farmer in Portland or in St. James can have can have a basis for making that flour without any big factory, etc. Although it can
just
I'm sure
dry
be
it and
done.
grind it
Well,
you mill
in those
like a
circumstances.
trading like corn and grind it and get flour.
So in those circumstances now, we can improve our nutrition. Yes. Don't tell me any longer, as the Minister of Agriculture did, with all respect to him, in 2013, that it would take years for Jamaican agricultural sector to produce enough food to feed our school children. Don't tell me that.
It take one crop.
Well, you're more optimistic than
Let
I.
us get more people,
what-
more land. The
Hello,
lands
sir.
are there.
Hello, sir. Which person in Jamaica, from the rudest rude boy to the streggy girl to anybody, don't want to see their picnic eat better? Yes. So why we don't?
And which of them don't want to get money if they know some money is in there?
Well, sir.
And
So-
okay, if you come a breadfruit farmer,
Yeah.
and you can export to
Yeah.
make in a bread.
Right.
Look how much you go. Hold on, you know how much breadfruit at the foot of Red Hills now?
How much, sir?
A roast breadfruit?
No, sir.
It's around $700 or $800.
What?
When the man go to St. Mary, go
Yeah.
buy the breadfruit,
Yeah.
carry it come a town, roast
Roast
it,
it.
scrape it at the foot of Red Hills, and you going home. And you don't have to go and go roast no breadfruit.
No,
you just
boil
go
the
to
rice.
slice it and
Yes.
go home. You know
Put
what
it
you
with
pay for
whatever.
breadfruit?
Well, you see that now. So the people will say that we're oversimplifying economic issues. I don't think so.
We are exposing
Sure.
what can be done
And
to people who don't know.
Yes, and the answer to the scourge of scraping off the top of the earth, yes, and
Dump it
taking-
now,
dumping it.
no.
Yes, we are showing ways, yes, that can be an alternative. Last night on television, when you saw the people of Gibraltar in St. Anna, a district you know,
Yeah.
when you saw them complaining, you saw the desperation on their face that them don't have no work, that when the bauxite gone, there's nothing to do, and them can't plant. The government of Jamaica, your government and mine, is going to allow more of that to take place. Pearnel
Right.
child,
Right.
that is a criminal act.
Listen, it never have to be so because the forefathers, the Norman Manley and the Bustamante,
You know, I thought of you when you.
they put it in the contract
Yeah,
which
but-
says put on back.
Yeah, but I saw some
So
of the,
many feet of
I saw some of the,
topsoil.
I saw some of the caves. I saw some of the caverns.
They
yes.
don't. They did nothing to them. They never.
Yeah,
They don't rehabilitate.
We
them.
don't even know if rehabilitation could take place because these people just take out everything. Yes,
Ronnie,
deep. But
let
even
me
so,
tell you, there are hillsides.
I will go with you.
And you can push down hillside,
Yeah, I
push
will go
down
with-
mall,
Yes,
full
sir.
it up,
Yes.
and put on back 2 feet
Yes.
of topsoil,
All
and
right, sir.
plant breadfruit.
When I will do that if that is what is the case. Now, if for example, just winding up everything, no. If, for example, Robert Montague, who was moved from the Ministry of Mining, yes, and now has to do, we hope, by assignment of the Prime Minister, responsibility for environment. What a felicitous move, because he now can redress
He know where all the hole them
policies. We know where all of the hole them there.
Yeah.
And he can repair some of this. Sorry for Audley, who is now Minister of Mining. Yes. Yeah, sorry for him because I respect him, but also poor Audley hasn't been well, we know. And he I hope he hasn't been given straw basket to carry water. But these are the things that can happen now. Stop the mining and develop the agriculture. Tell Mr. Noranda, please, sir, come show us the contract that you're relying on, and let us see how we can phase out what is called a sunset industry.
I want to
Yes?
set you a challenge.
Yes, sir.
I want you to get to the get to the bauxite
Soon come.
mining place up in Hope.
Hope.
Get a copy of the contract.
Yes, sir.
And say that the men in the past knew
Yes,
that
sir.
they were going to be holes. And they say,
Pearnel Charles.
take your big tractors and push down the hillside, level it up, put on the topside. But what they didn't say, plant some free trees. Amen.
Pearnel
We
Charles
want some breadfruit tree plant.
gives me homework. This is the early rise on the Bridge 99. Thank you so much, Chief Charles. Thank you so much, LaFane, Athena, Richie, Romy, Audley, everybody for this program today. Join us tomorrow for the early rise on the only Bridge 99, bringing Jamaicans together from all over the world. It's exciting stuff.